This is an art class by Splash, a non-profit youth arts workshop. In this follow-along video, we show you how to draw a dog portrait.
Hello. How's everybody doing? This is Charlie Newton. One more day with you for a free art class. So we are Splash. My name is Charlie Newton. And today we're going to do a painting in watercolors. So kids, get out your watercolors and you need a pencil. And so we're going to paint my dog, my puppy. And the idea is, how do you paint animals? So when I'm painting animals, I sort of look at them as human beings. I can't help it because they have feelings, they have emotions, they have personality and all of that. So the main thing is getting the eyes set apart. Not having the eyes too close. And, a human being, the distance between the eyes is one eye. And for animals, sometimes it may be two eyes, or 1.5 eyes. So get in that space. Also seeing the circles and the triangles is very important. So remember, everything that you are going to draw or paint is made up of circles, triangles, and squares. And if you get those basic shapes first, then you can make anything. You can draw anything. All right, so let's get started. So my dog's name is Chester, and you see I have him as a screensaver, and that's what we're going to use. That's what I'm going to use to paint this picture. In fact, I might put this here and hope my phone don't fall off. I think I'll hold it in my hands. So first thing I notice is that his face is slightly tilted. His face is not straight up and down. It's slightly tilted to the left. And so what I'll do, I'll sort of sketch a line that I believe that's at that tilt. Now, it's okay to exaggerate. When I say exaggerate, I can tilt my picture a little bit more than the actual photograph to make it look a little bit more realistic, to make that tilt a little bit more pronounced. I'm going to move my line here more to the center this time. So you see I'm sketching, and I just remember I'm not going to use that line. I'm going to use this one here. And so first thing we're going to do is draw a circle, sketch a circle. It don't have to be perfect. You notice I'm barely touching the paper because this is just to get the basic shape. My pencil is barely touching the paper, so I'm not writing. So do not lay your hand down on the paper. Your hand never touches the paper when you're drawing. It's almost like painting. It's just like painting, actually. So, so sketch a circle. That's the basic shape of his head. And then what I'm going to do is, what we can do is draw a line straight through that circle at this same angle that tilts. So it looks like a cross. So the cross has to be even. So we're just getting the basic shapes. I don't plan on erasing anything. I may have to erase some lines, but I don't want to. Now, the next thing we're going to do is let's do a triangle shape. We're going to start at the point where this middle line, this perpendicular line, meets the horizontal line. Draw a triangle. And let the triangle come down below this circle. Now all this can be changed. We're just trying to get an idea of where everything is. So actually, when I'm looking at his nozzle, I'm looking at it seems like there's another circle here. So the bottom part of the triangle, that line there, is going to be the mouth. Then I'm going to draw another circle that intersects the corners, left and right corner of this triangle. Because when I saw this shape, actually, the bridge of his nose and everything, I see a triangle. I see triangles and circles. It's rounded off, and we're going to round that off more later. Okay, and now I'm just going to put a line over here for his body, and a line here. We'll draw the body. We'll think about the body and the neck later. But I'm just indicating where I think the body might be. So those are the basic shapes. Can they see these sketch lines pretty good?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't draw the ears, and we can do that later. So I'm going to make a lot of changes to this, okay? This is basic. You don't have to make changes to this shape, but whenever you're drawing a portrait, and I'm doing a portrait of a dog, of a puppy, my puppy, each individual portrait is going to look different, and it's going to use these shapes, but in varying ways. They're going to vary depending on the animal or the individual. It's the same for a person. You know, you have your basic outline, but then you have to model it and mold it and change the shape. So what's important to me is where his eyes are related to his head. And if you measure, I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. I'm using my finger, and the tip of my finger is going to be that measure. I'm measuring the width of this eye, his right eye, which is to our left, and then I'm going to measure how many eyes, about how many, 1, 2, it's about 3 eyes. So I'm going to start with this eye here, where I think it belongs and the size I think it is, and it's slanted. The eye is not straight like a person's eye. It's slanted. Because his head is round and he's looking up at me. Now, when I get the size of this eye, I may have made this eye a little bit too large, but it don't matter because I can always enlarge my picture. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, and see if I'm going to see if that works. So I'm touching the picture with my eyes now. Okay, it's close. I'm going to bring that right eye a little bit in from where I thought it was. I want it to be the same width and the same height. Now this eye, I notice, is not as slanted as that one. And it's actually not quite as wide either, because it's going back in space. Now remember, you can make changes all throughout your picture. Now the sketch, the better the sketch, the better the painting. So he has eyebrows, large eyebrows above his eyes. And I'm going to sketch that in right now. sketching is good for a hairy dog. Your sketching technique, it really works. Then I'm thinking about how his cranium sinks in a dog's head. Now, a dog's head is pretty flat, by the way. So even though the top of my circle is right here, I'm going to flatten that out a little bit, but I'm using curved lines, bold lines, because I'm trying to draw what I see. So you have to the secret to this is keep looking at your subject. Keep looking at, we call the model the subject, okay? Even if it's a still life, if it's an object like a apple or a watermelon or something, we call that the subject. So keep looking at what you're drawing. Look at what you're drawing a lot, even more than you look at your picture that you're drawing. And art, listen, is problem solving. In that, art is a lot like math. So all I'm doing is, remember we did contour drawing? All I'm doing is a contour, but I'm doing contour and gesture at the same time. So this ear over here, I notice the ear is not straight lines, they're curved lines. So I try to draw the curve, but I sketch it in. And the reason why I'm sketching is because I'm not sure. You don't put any definite lines on your picture until you are sure that's where they go. But until then, you just sketch. And you can make changes. Remember, you're not a slave to the picture or the object. On Thursday, I replayed that class about gesture and contour drawing. I'm going to do that a lot when I think you need to be reminded, or you need a refresher, or maybe you're a new student. I encourage you to go back and look at some of the older classes, because the gesture and the contour is very important in training your eyes to see. So we're not a camera, so we want to train our eyes to see, but we also want some psychological content in this, in your art, with your art. So you want to express something as well. See, I'm making every time I'm putting my pencil on the paper, I'm making changes. And you see how light I'm sketching? Because sometimes you think you understand what you see, but you don't. So you're going to change your mind about what you're looking at. You're going to change your mind. So this is the underside of the dog's face here. And then behind him, he has a neck that we can't see for all the fur, but I know there's a neck there. And behind his neck, there's his body that's going back in space. And that's what this line here indicates. Now, I want to get his nose right. So I'm really looking at the contour of the face and where this face turns out, that line turns out here to become a nose. I'm also, because of the picture, I noticed that everything on his nose, his nozzle, the bridge of his nose is lighter. The fur is lighter, but so that helps me to see that shape. And that turns out. So I'm still sketching, of course. And what's neat about this, your sketch marks will help create the illusion of hair later on. I'm still using the lines that I first drew. I may be getting some of those lines confused. I see another triangle right above his nose. Do you see that red triangle that shows a little bit of his skin? And then his nose is like a Superman symbol, the shape of a Superman symbol. It's a triangle as well, but that's been rounded off on the corners. So I'm going to sketch that nose in right now. For me, in drawing dogs, I really like their nose, and I think the nose is very descriptive. So that's one of the most important things for me, the nose. And getting the nose in the right place is important. I'm going to move my nose up a little bit, the nose that I drew. And I love the anatomy. It's animals are so beautiful and wonderfully made. And the anatomy of the nose is just fascinating to me. How it curves around and under. We know a dog has like super powers of smell. And to see how the dog's nose is made to enable this dog to pick up scents that we can't discern, we can't recognize. It's been said, I've heard it said that a dog can pick up scents from 10 years. 10 years old. I remember one of our dogs, Mutt Mutt, that was his name. We called him Mutt Mutt, our first dog. He got away from us when walking him one time. And we had been walking him down to the field where we like to walk him and play with him. So I probably made this dog's nose a little bit too large, so I'm going to measure. It should stop about right in there. Just like I would a person's face, I'm measuring elements, and that should stop about right here. And he got away from us and he got lost. We thought he was lost anyway. And he actually found his way home. And it had been a long time since we had actually walked that distance, because we were driving him to the field. We started off walking him over there, and for some reason we stopped walking that far, and we started driving him. I don't know, maybe it was a couple of miles. And he found his way home. So this area here, I just made his nose smaller. I may end up making it even smaller. But it's okay if I make the nose a little bit too large to bring his nozzle forward. I don't like these lines here, so I'm going to erase that. You don't have to, but I'm going to because of the painting. Now I'm going to draw this little top lip, which is so cute to me. Oh yeah, let me say this. When drawing a portrait of a person or an animal, if you draw a person that you know or an animal that you have a relationship with, that should be, if there's some kind of relationship, it's going to be easier because you're going to notice some things that you wouldn't notice with a stranger. So the turn of his mouth here is something that I happen to like. You know, it amuses me, his expression. So we're going to draw that there. Now, normally when you're drawing, you're not talking. Okay, I'm talking because I'm trying to guide you guys through this. But you want your total concentration. It always takes total concentration. The hair beneath his hand is on his neck, and his neck has a collar. So it causes the collar pushed down on his neck causes the hair to flare out. That's a little detail that you may want to notice the directions of the hairlines. Now, I need to get this space between it's his left eye, but it's to our right. I want to get that right. Or when I say right, there's no right and wrong. What I mean is, I need it to feel visually like what I'm seeing. So it's not that I'm getting it right, but I want it to feel right. So what'll happen, like what just happened with me, when I get this side to feel right, it changes everything else on the picture. So now I'm correcting things. I'm drawing backwards now on this ear, and I'm moving the ear up. See the difference? This is where I had the ears at first here. Now I move that bottom line up. That's my gesture. I'm doing a gesture going back this way with my gesture, going from bottom to top. And every time I do it, it changes. So I just moved it up a little bit more. Now that's the flap of his ear. Then the bottom can come down like this. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit just to get a flow. Because it's always, like I said on Tuesday, it's always about the art. The art has to look like, I hate saying things like has, but for me, it has to feel right. It has to work as a work of art for me. I'm always about the art. You know, why work so hard? Some people don't work at their art. And they will give you anything and charge an arm and a leg for anything. In the arts today, there's not a whole lot of integrity. And that's a battle. See, I'm redrawing now. I'm going back, problem solving, making changes, using my gesture. And I made up in my mind, I'm just going to have integrity. You know, if nobody has integrity, if nobody buys my artwork, you know, if nobody accepts what I do, you know, my name is going to mean something. I'm not just going to do stuff just for money, just to get over. I know that's the American way, but we saw, and we are seeing the problems that has caused us not having any integrity. So, with my talent, I can have some integrity. And I'm saying this to you because I'm going to be saying this to my artist friends, arts organizations, everybody. Because it's not worth doing if it's fake. So, how do you have integrity? You believe in yourself and work hard. And know that art is about more than money. It's about a lot more. For me, it's like a mirror to your soul, expressing your feelings. And to you young artists, it's already that way. That's what it's about. So I'm going to say this to Splash students. Don't think about money yet. You have plenty of time when you grow up to think about that. Just think about your art and appreciate your own talent. I'll tell you, I know hundreds of artists, hundreds, personally. And most of the artists that I went to college with, they're not even making art now. And a lot of my friends, I kept telling them, work on your art, work on your art, work on your art. And they were so much into trying to survive financially that they never got to work on their art. And as for me, I never stopped working on my art. So it's sort of like, are you an artist or not? What are you? And the more you work, the better you'll get. I don't care who you are. And kids, the more you look, the more you will see. And that's why we look more at the subject than our paper. My head keeps looking down at the subject. Now, it's much easier to draw from a photograph than from life. And I have done portraits of animals from life and sold them. Their owners were happy with it. It's been a long time since I've done that, but what I'm saying is that, the reason why I'm telling you that, is that, okay, it's much easier to get an image from a photograph, but it's harder to make it look realistic. It's much more difficult to draw from life, but it's easier to make it look realistic because you can see with your two eyes everything that's happening. So you have more information. Now, knowing my dog, knowing this picture, I see some problems here with my picture. And the main problems that I see is it don't have his scrawny, his scrawny look. So now this is when you exaggerate. So I'm gonna make his head smaller, skinnier, because he's a little runt, my little dog. So I'm gonna make his head skinnier on purpose. So see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I meant by when you know the person or the object. Now you can get creative to make that expression. Okay. So I'll change this line, drawing this line darker so that you can see what I'm doing. Make him scrawny, a little scrawny and skinny. Bringing everything in. And this is very important when drawing babies and when you're drawing people. You know, what was your first impression of the person? That's what the drawing is about. What do you see? Your first impression. That's usually, I'm bringing the nose in a little bit too. Your first impression is where that portrait is. I'm sorry. So, thanks. I'm gonna show you what happens, kids. There's a lesson to be learned what just happened. I started leaning into my picture, and that means I wasn't relaxed. So Auntie told me my head was in the way, and that's because I'm leaning in. Now, if I sit back, I'm gonna be more relaxed, and I can see more, and I can do a better job. So usually nobody's around when you're drawing or painting. So you have to sort of discipline yourself. When you feel yourself leaning into the picture, you're focusing too hard. Your focus is too hard. You're focusing too much. You need to relax. And by sitting back, you will relax. So I hope this, by bringing this dog, making him skinnier and bringing them in a little bit, I hope that this will work. It may work and it may not work. Also, when I start painting the shadows, that's going to say a lot. I'm going to make his eyes a little smaller. Do you notice I'm drawing the entire picture at once? I'm not just scrolling. I'm going from one side of the picture to the next. And every time I do that, I'm changing. I'm making changes. Now I'm like touching his face. See, I'm making some major changes now. So I'm touching the picture right now. As I'm touching the, this is contour too. This is kind of like an advanced contour concept. As my hand is touching the paper, I'm imagining it touching the picture. So I'm going to bring his eye in. Now, one thing, I have astigmatism, so I have to be aware of that. I'm going mainly by what I think I see now. So I brought his eye in. His right eye, that's to our left. What's happening? See, this is called modeling, by the way. You do this when you paint too. This is called modeling. It's just like clay. Imagine that you have clay. Now, look, I brought this in so much. Now, look at the difference. I'm going to have to move this ear in. That's a huge difference. The more you look, the more you see. So now I'm drawing from top to bottom instead of from bottom to top. I'm bringing this ear in here. Now, let me say this too. I haven't done a real portrait in years. I used to do portraits 3 times a week. 3 times a week I was drawing portraits. And that's how I made my living, from portraits. So, or once a week. Last time I guess I was doing it once a week during the summers. But the more you do, the better you get. And when you haven't done something in a while, then my hand touched the paper, and now my paper is dirty. You don't want that to happen. So I would use a kneaded eraser, but it's underneath some stuff, so I'm not going to try to find it. Just brush it off. Oh yes, I'm drawing with a regular number 2 that you would use in school. Can you see how now the dog is smaller, skinnier, scrawnier? I'm going to just sketch in the background so that you can see the changes that I made on this side. So these lines represent the background. Okay. Now, I don't know how much more time I have, maybe 15 minutes. I'm going to start with light colors first.
About 15, 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Start with the light colors first. I'm going to use yellow. I'm just going to just sketch in. So everywhere I think is yellow. I'm not using white paint, so wherever I see white, I'm just going to leave the paper for the white. So I have to be careful that I leave some white. where I see some hints of yellow, I'm just putting a wash, just thin paint. See? Where I think I might want yellow. Yellow is a sort of a highlight. Now, luckily, you can see the pencil marks, and that's going to kind of help. Describe the fur. And I think I'm going to use some pink next. I'm going from light to dark. Now, I don't have pink in my tray. As you can see, this is my tray, so I'm going to use red. I'm just going to use some thin red. I think you have similar colors. So use it. Put a lot of water in my brush, dipping in the red so that the red hopefully won't go on very heavy. Matter of fact, I'll make some marks down here to make sure it don't. So I want the red to resemble flesh. Painting this little triangle. So if the white paper shows through, the red appears to be pink. Okay, where I want to see a little red. I'm going to put it on the picture. I'm putting it on his paws because it makes his paws come forward. The red is a very warm color, actually hot, and it makes his paws come forward. And my brush strokes are, I'm thinking about fur. Now I'm going to use blue for his eyes. I may use some black on this picture. And now I'm going to thin the blue down with water as well. So I'm going to test it here. So that's how thin I want it. So as the light hits his dark eyes, we see a blue highlight. I'm leaving a little white on this side. And a little white there. Okay. Now I think I'm going to start with brown. I think I'll use a small brush and build up his fur slowly. I'm going to test my brown here, and that's fine with me. So now these strokes, it's like I'm drawing, right? So the strokes resemble hair. So I'm going to use a brown that's thin with water, and I'm going to use also a brown like that. Okay. So when I go to the dark side of his ear, I'll use the darker brown. I paint off my brush so that I can use the brown like this. When I took paint off my brush, what I did was I did not dip it in the water. I dipped it in my palette just to take some paint. So I had paint on my brush, right? So I want to take some paint off, so I use my palette. And I can dip my brush in water and get these different degrees of thinness and thickness of paint. The darkest darks will be last. So each stroke, I'm thinking about fur. Now you have to look at the direction that the fur is flowing in. Like the fur over his eye is flowing like this. Now this is more of a dry brush I'm using now. That means it don't have that much water on it. And I'm using my drawing. The drawing can help you. So that's why I tell kids, don't cover up your drawing when you're painting. Use your drawing for the next stage. I'm sorry. Okay. Did I move this or did it? Is this the same way? Did I move my easel? Okay.
You're fine then.
Okay. So on this side of the head, the strokes go this way. On the right, my right side, his left, the strokes go that way. The opposite. It's like a mirror image. This side is the mirror image of that side. You don't want to paint as fast as I'm painting, but you don't want to paint slow, because you want it to feel like, the hair is flowing. You don't, if your brush is too wet, that's no good because the paint is going to run. If your brush is too dry, that's no good because it won't flow. So I'm going to do all the brown that's sort of these two ranges, these ranges here, a dark, a middle, and a light. And then I'm going to go back with a very dark brown. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use black. I could use black, or I could mix blue with brown. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. I may try mixing the blue with brown first. And then if that don't work, then I'll use black. Because the light is falling down from the left-hand side. So I need to put this side in shadow. Now, you guys don't have a fan brush, but a fan brush, and I don't have one with me to show you, but a fan brush might speed things up.
Your hand over that way. Hold your pitch on that side, and you won't. You turn your head over there to look at it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, we will mix the black with the brown. I just made that decision. But all the dark, the lights and darks, I'm going to paint in now. And then the very darks, I'm going back. So this brown I'm putting here, the under part of the ear, is going to be even darker. Did I move my head over there again?
No, we're good.
I'm changing brushes to a brush that won't show so much detail. I really want a scraggly, an old scraggly brush. So I happen to have a brush that's not quite like a watercolor brush. You can hear it hitting the paper. This is more like an acrylic brush. It's old and stiff, and I think I can speed things up by using this brush. Can't control it that well though, and so I'm using it as a dry brush. Try not to have so much water in the brush. So you can see how right now there's not a whole lot of contrast in this picture. But when I go back with the darks, that's going to create contrast.
John even knows that I'm enjoying your picture.
Hey, John. He's John Malone was the first African American, first black person to be in UTC's band, to be admitted to UTC's music department and band. And he's now living in Los Angeles doing his music thing. So nice to know that he's watching. He's a master musician, Maestro John Malone. He didn't get the credit that I think he should have gotten here in Chattanooga. And like a lot of Chattanooga artists, they leave the city because of that. I say that. Maybe that's not why he left the city. I'm going to give him his flowers now. That's a expression that we use, Iantha. See, Iantha is from England, and she don't understand a lot of these expressions that we use.
I understand most of them, but I haven't heard that one before. Heard most of them.
What that means is that a lot of times people don't recognize people until they're dead, and so they bring. Okay, but you want me to break it down? But everybody, all black people that watching me, they know what I meant. That's an American saying. So what I'm doing is, you have heard me say, I'm setting the picture up. This is what I do with all my art. I set it up first for the coup de grace, what I call the coup de grace. I set it up to finish it. So all this, what I've been doing is getting my picture ready for the final touches. Which I'm about to embark on in a few minutes. So I have a certain way of painting noses, dogs' noses, animal noses, and I like to put blue on the nose as a highlight. So I'm going to use this blue here, not that one. So I'll thin it. Okay, I have 5 minutes. And watch what we do in 5 minutes then. I may take 10, but watch what we do in 5. So I'm thinning this blue. Now I'm going to go back with the dark brown. I'm ready for the dark brown, which to this is, like I said, this is the coup de grace. The finishing touches. I'm going to add my black to brown. You could just use black, but what I've done is added black to brown to get a dark brown like that. I'm going back everywhere where I think I need dark brown. Using my drawing. My drawing is already here. So I'm drawing in the shadows, okay? Basically. So you see how the contrast, well, in a minute, you see how this contrast, I'm really focused on this side of the picture. If I do nothing but this side of the picture in the background, something's going to happen. Need to drink some water. I'm just thinking fur. With everything I'm doing, I'm thinking fur. Now I'm going to pick up this brown that's not quite as dark, this mid-tone brown here. And move that into the dark brown. Thank you, Jamaria. Watch what happens when I get a little black. I'm just going to trace around my drawing. I may be leaning in, but this time I'm leaning in so that my hand can be a little bit more steady. Remember, your picture don't have to look like mine. We all have our way of doing things. These are just the basics. So remember, I'm doing the shadows. And I'm thinking hair, fur. And this side of the face, I'm going to use a brown. It's not quite so dark. So stop when, you have to pay attention to each brush stroke, and you never know when you need to thin your paint. And I needed to thin my paint, so I stopped with my strokes. So remember, you are in control. The painting is not painting itself. You are making the painting. I'm using my paper as a palette so you can see what I'm doing. I'm thinning my brown. When you get these different shades of brown like that, the different values, it gives the picture a little bit more volume. I'm going to give this dog a dark background. It may go over 5 minutes because I want you to see what happens in the background. Contrast is so important. I'm definitely going to let you see what happens in the background. It will not take long to paint that background. I want you to see. So by making this fur underneath the dog darker, hopefully it's going to make the face out more, help the face to stand out, bring it forward. So I'm going to make his eyes a little bit more blue and a little bit more black. Add some blue. And now I'm just going to pick up some black. Okay. How many more minutes? Is it time to go?
Let's have a look. Where are we? Yeah, it's right 12 o'clock right now.
Okay. So I'm going to do this. Is just going to take 3 minutes. Give me 3 minutes.
No.
I'm going to get a wide brush. I'm going to get the right brush. I can't see. This brush may do it. I'm getting the round, use a round brush. I'm gonna get this, use this dark brown and mix it with black. I want it very dark. And just this side, I'm gonna paint very dark.
Why is that side?
That's a good question. The best, now even though this is intuitive, but the best reason to paint this side is because I have dark on this side. And so it's going to highlight this area of the dog's body. So the light side of the dog is going to have a dark background, very dark background. And the dark side of the dog will have a lighter background. And like, you're right, to make it pop. And that's the best reason, explanation I can give to you about that. Because nothing is set in stone, right, in art. Then I'm going to bring some of this darkness down into the dog. So as the eye travels across the paper, it has something to look at. I have too much black on my brush. Try to get it off. I wanted more brown, more red on this side. I could have left this side white, but I didn't want to. I think I'll leave this part up here white. I'm trying to bring the picture together now to make it sort of pleasing, more pleasing to the eye. I'm going to paint out this little area down here that I've been experimenting with. So just paint that out. Now, this is a matter of taste. I'm adding some more brown here to make it a little bit more red. It's just a matter of taste. You would do it your way. Everybody would do it their own way. Because we're not monolithic. And now I'm just going to do shadows under the chin again to make sure we can see it. And that's going to be a wrap. That's going to be a wrap. Okay. And remember, put your initials, put your name, kids, put your name and your age in case we decide to use your art. Splash Kids, do that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And this has been fun. I hope you enjoyed our class. And until next time, remember, art is for everyone. Bye-bye.